motivation, all that negative emotion, that's really useful.
Okay.
Like anger's part of that too.
Yeah.
You want to have that
Motivate
behind
you.
you.
Yeah.
Damn right. You want your fear, you want Satan behind you,
Yes.
pushing you forward.
Okay.
Right? Exactly. Not in front of you, barring your way.
Jordan Peterson, previous guest on the
radio show, actually.
It was on the radio show, but we played on my Father's State show last Friday. And Jordan Peterson is a psychologist. He has a discussion about vices with Matt Fradd, host of, what's that?
Pints with Aquinas.
What?
It's the name of a show.
Pint with Aquinas?
I think that it has to do with beer. It's kind of like, because
Is
a
it-
lot of those old Christians, I think he was like a monk or something. He was a very smart, intellectual, academic, Thomas Aquinas.
I'm being told it's a prominent Christian/Catholic podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
St. Thomas Aquinas.
Nice. This is from YouTube. Jordan Peterson give his solution on how to stop indulging in adult content. Watch this.
I have worked a lot with people who are trapped in pornography and want to be free.
Mm-hmm.
I would love your advice here. 2 questions. One would be, why should young men quit porn? And then what's your advice to young men who feel like it's just inevitable? Like I started when I was young. I've tried all the tricks and tips. I don't know how to stop. I keep promising myself I'll
You
stop,
can't
only to
stop.
go back
You
like a
can't
dog to its
stop.
vomit. So first
You
of all,
never stop.
why should they think about quitting porn first of all? 'Cause I
Well,
guess-
no one ever quits anything. They
Okay.
replace it with something better. Most reliable cure for alcoholism is religious transformation. And that's been known even among the secular, what would you say, psychiatrists for like 80 years. You need a replacement. So I would say to young men who are listening to this podcast, for example, if you want to stop engaging in a self-destructive, impulsive, and juvenile habit, whatever it is, make a plan.
It's interesting. He did say that you replace it with something else.
Right.
And a lot of the alcoholics turn all like Christian, turn all like born again. And they do, but they become like angry and over aggressive. And you can't really get along with them.
In order to overcome adult content is that you got to stop identifying with it. You got to stop. Number one, don't even try to overcome it. Don't identify with it. Don't call it you, and it will disappear. But if you go and find something else, like let's say you're doing the adult content, and then you start drinking, I hate use. That's not gonna make you better. You just went from one thing to cover up what's wrong to another thing. That's not gonna make your situation better at all. You gotta face it, but don't fight with it. Don't identify with it. Because the adult content is not the problem. It is keeping you from facing the real problem. It's not the problem at all. You won't deal with the reality of what's really wrong, and that's why. Here's from YouTube, Jordan Peterson. Jordan explains his online program that encourages you to envision a future self. Watch this.
We have a program online at selfauthoring.com called Future Authoring. It's like it helps you make a vision. So you're ashamed of yourself for some reason. That's why your conscience is calling at you. You know you're taking the easy way out. Okay. What are you being called to? Why are you plagued by doubts about the appropriateness of your behavior? Well, because something is beckoning to you. Well, what? An unrealized vision. Picture yourself 5 years out, and you've let your bad habits take full control. But you're 5 years older, right? So what does that
scary.
look like?
Yeah,
Well, it should
not
be
good.
scary. Like, what's the little hell your whims are aiming at? So what are you? You're the 35-year-old creep at the bachelor party who's still involved with pornography, who still has the mind of a 16-year-old and is getting kind of perverse around the edges because everything he watches is getting a little more brutal, right? You're that kind of scum rat creep. That's your destiny. You want that?
It sounds like he's trying to put fear in you. and it sounds judgmental.
So he's telling the people to envision themselves 5 years from now?
Yeah.
He said to envision yourself? But how can you do that when there is no 5 years from now? Because how can you envision, even God said, think not about tomorrow. It doesn't even exist.
Right.
So how can you think about 5 years from now and fix yourself?
what he just said right there was not what you want to be, but what you are if you stay on the path that you're on, what you will be. So he's encouraging you, in my opinion, he was kind of encouraging you not only to judge yourself in the present, but to judge yourself in the future if you stay in with what you're doing in the present.
And then how would that help you overcome them?
It'll scare the HE double toothpicks out of you.
Which will make you worse.
But if you can kind of envision nice things and stuff that you want to do, then maybe you can have a goal and start making a plan and following that plan.
But making a goal is not going to help you overcome those kind of situations.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know. Here's where George says channeling negative emotions is useful to avoid the problem.
Right, you need both of those. That's why in the archetypal realm, the moral landscape is anchored with heaven and hell. You need something to run the hell away from.
Yeah.
Right, because that avoidance motivation, all that negative emotion, that's really useful.
Okay.
Like anger's part of that too.
Yeah.
You want to have that
Motivate
behind
you.
you.
Yeah.
Damn right. You want your fear, you want Satan behind you,
Yes.
pushing you forward.
Okay.
Right? Exactly. Not in front of you, barring your way.
But there needs to be something to run to.
Well, that's the other thing, is that gives you incentive pleasure, and that's exactly what drugs do. That's also what pornography does. Like technically, you experience a dopaminergic release in relationship to a goal. And when all the drugs of addiction produce dopaminergic release, all the bad habits, right? You got to replace that. Well, with what? Movement towards a valid goal. Well, what's your goal? What do you want in a relationship? Like if you could have what you wanted, what would it look like? Think about it, vision it, envision it, imagine it, let it reveal itself to you. You know, how could you serve your community? Flesh it out.
That's scary. I think that's why this guy's had so many different issues, partly. Because he's had a lot of issues that he's gone through.
Right.
Jordan Peterson.
Right.
I don't know. I don't think he's out of it yet, out of his hell yet. He doesn't seem I don't get a feeling of peace and calm and real confidence when I'm hearing him rattle this stuff off. He's talking about manipulating your fallen state self to make the best out of it, which it's okay in like a worldly sense, but it's not. It's just basically still miserable, and you're headed for trouble.
That advice is so bad and so wrong. And I understand he's intellectual. He's doing his best. Yeah. I do understand that. But that information is so wrong that will only get you deeper into hell. You ain't going to find heaven in that at all. That's too bad, but I understand. There is no you to envision the future. If there's no you to envision the future that doesn't exist, how are you going to do that? And if you go into the mind to think that it's you in the mind envisioning the future, you're worshiping the devil. It's all an illusion.